Download and upload.
Oh,
right. Yay, we are live. So this is Authority Alchemist, and I'm here with Pauline McGuire. Thank you so much for being here today. I appreciate you.
Pleasure.
And so I would love to learn about where you are in the writing process. I believe you're on your second book, right?
Yes. I did a revision on the first one, and I'm the second one is moving to the front burner.
That happens sometimes. You like start writing and you're like, I have this idea and I have this idea. And then sometimes one book does just speak to you more and it just flows more. So that's always the one to go with.
Well, if you try and force it, it's a nightmare.
Yes.
So especially with the work I do, it's what's, if I have this drive to do it, what are the stoppers?
Yes.
And definitely feeling like, okay, it's the time. Like the last one I wrote, I knew since 2019 I was going to write a book. I just didn't know what it was about. And then I was at a meditation retreat and I got back and it's like, now is the time, go. I was like, okay.
Love that. And so is your genre self-help? Or is it?
So yeah, I guess self-help. I'm a walk-in clearing facilitator. So I myself am a walk-in soul, and I work with clients who like myself have had complications.
Yes.
And they're highly, those are complications and interference. So so that's what I wrote about, because
wow.
Especially as a walk-in, like that was a couple of occupants ago, and you really get sick of telling the story because it's not yours anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like, okay, it's time to memorialize this. People legitimately, especially if they're going to get into this work, they want to know who I am, where I've been, and I need to memorialize that because it needs to be accessible on mass, and I'm forgetting, and the memories fade, right? Because it's not me anymore. So, so the first book was written in a couple of months.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Good for you. Wow. That's amazing. And thank you for speaking to this, because not many, I've heard of this, and I haven't met anyone who has been. So and I've been in this realm, the mind, body, spirit realm, for quite some time. So it's really cool to meet someone who's had that experience. I just want to say that. So thank you.
It is fascinating. Once you get through the interference and the BS of complications, it is phenomenal. And everything that you knew you were and knew was possible starts to happen.
Wow.
And it's the knowing that knowingness that keeps pushing you forward to finally getting it. And the book, and people meeting me, and they're like, they'll beeline across the room and they're like, I just need to talk to you and I don't know why. And I'm kind of like, I might have an idea.
Yeah. You're like, I know why. Yeah.
So that's an issue. The first book was quite short.
Okay.
The Cole's notes, because you don't want it to be daunting. And so there's actually probably 2 more books at least.
Okay.
The juicier version of my story that I have really not told anybody, and the one that I'm thinking about now.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And I feel like what's so cool about your story as well, like I feel like a good publishing house would be good for it, I guess let me ask you some questions too. And I'll kind of explain the 3 differences of the publishing houses, because I think that was one of your questions as well. So there's 3 ways to publish. There's the traditional route. I'm going to put that over here. The traditional is a big publishing house, and you usually get a book deal with that. They give you money up front. For like first-time authors, it's hard, but I will say maybe it's not much. Maybe between 5 and 10 grand is somewhere where they would offer, unless you have a big following. If you have a big following, then that would be different. It would be more. But generally between 5 and 10 is generally that, to prove yourself, to see if these books would sell. And then of course, if it does, then the next time around you would get more. I would say with the traditional, it's cool because you're in every bookstore. You know, it's what when you go to a bookstore, you know, you open up that book, they're a traditional. Some could be hybrid, but usually generally traditional. And it's neat. It's fun to say, oh, I'm published under this, you know, and I feel like at least that's my dream in a way. And so, yeah, but I will say this, they have final say. They have final control. So if you know, like I have a lot of clients that get downloads, you know, and so if you're one of those that this is the download, this is what this book is called, this is what the book must look like, these are the colors that, you know, the book needs to, these are the chapters, whatever it may be that it has to be, that's not necessarily going to stay with the traditional publisher. They get final say. So it's up to you to, you know, if you're gung-ho on this has to be the title, then that's not going to be your route. So then we're going to go to the middle route. Actually, we'll go to the end. We'll go to the other side. The other side is self-publishing. Self-publishing, you do everything yourself. You know, you could get it up within a week to 2 weeks when you're ready. Oh, I'm sorry?
Up where?
Up where, like if you wanted to do Amazon or Ingram Spark or one of those that are a self-publishing realm. There's a couple of them I can guide you as well. Those would be when you follow like the steps, it's within a week it gets published. It's pretty simple as well. They walk you through it. They format it, you know, in a way it's pretty easy. However, you're doing all the work. You're, you know, how are you selling them? Is it you're going to order, which you can order books through Amazon to have physical books. You can. I don't remember pricing on it. I want to say it's around like, and it depends on the size of the book and how thick it is as well. Generally to self-help, just to speak to that, self-help books generally are around 200 pages, just to speak to that.
Okay. Yeah. Mine right now is, I think 53 and I kept it short. I actually hired an editor.
Okay. Good for you.
And, because I'm very much about, like I know in my mind, my subject matter can be nebulous.
Okay.
Shall we say, right? Like you don't know how people are receiving it.
Mm-hmm.
And I needed to make sure that what I was saying was coming across.
Yes.
And in the first round, it got rewritten and it shut me right down. I couldn't even look at it. I couldn't figure out what was going on. It's like, okay, I got the draft back from the editor. What happened? Like, why am I not excited? Why am I not? And then I started to read it and I'm like, oh, this does not say anything like what I said, what I needed it to say.
Mm-hmm.
And that probably shut me down for a couple of weeks until I figured out what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And then I said, okay, we're doing editing light. You're doing grammar and punctuation and formatting. And that's it. And it needed to be that way for that first book.
Yep.
And then you're told, well, you know, these are all the pitfalls. And it's like, okay, well, my option is being completely shut down and not moving forward or some pitfalls. And I get to make pitfalls. I get to have this experience when it's a free ebook for people who are interested in me and my work.
Got it. Okay.
And I get that it would be different the next time, but what you said is like, you won't have the control, and I got shut right down. My things got reworded and it's like, that does not say the same thing. And in my world, it didn't have the same frequency.
Yes. That's a big part of it. Yep.
And it's all about the frequency, right?
It's
the people are going to interpret it the way that they're going to interpret it, but it has to go to my frequency.
Yes. I hear you with that completely. And I will say this, every editor is going to have their own edits. And I'm glad you actually spoke to just light editing, because this story of what you're telling, and if you are speaking, and I will say many of my clients are similar, they get the downloads of what they need to speak about and they write. And if it's slightly changed, it's not your words anymore. And you're right, the frequency is off. And I can see why you paused. I can absolutely see why it was like a halt, because I would almost feel the same way if it was like, this is my story and this is my flow. This is the energy of it. And then all of a sudden someone, I want to almost like they're trying to box you into this box.
And because it was a new process for me, I had never done it before. I didn't know initially what was going on. I thought it was a writer's block, or am I getting cold feet, or because it's a very vulnerable process
It
to
is.
write, especially when you're writing about yourself and your experiences that are not common and mainstream.
Right.
And you've gone through this massive transformation, and so it took me a while to figure out what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And it was friends of mine that were like, how's the book going? I'm like, I'm stopped. Mm-hmm. And then it was talking to them that I said, they're like, well, what happened? And I said, like, it got written. And my friend is like, oh, that's it. That's right there. You can't do that.
Right.
You cannot, that's not you anymore.
Exactly.
And of course it got completely shut down.
Of course. Absolutely. Because it's not your story anymore. Now it becomes, and I want to speak to the editor that you chose. Were they open, or were they mind, body, spirit? Or are they open to, are they familiar, I guess, in a way?
Maybe not as much as I thought, but
Okay.
I know her wife from my meditation community. Okay. So that's kind of, I think it was a challenge for her as well.
Yeah.
Right. Because when you're not dealing in the energetic realm and you're just dealing with, okay, here's the information I need to impart. Does it make sense? Could it be worded differently? That's one thing. But when you're putting out a frequency,
yes,
that's completely different.
Yes. Yes.
So I think to be, really kind and loving to both of us was a learning experience for both of us.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, okay, you know what? We're just moving to light. Because she'd given me the option up front, and I didn't know. I picked the full thing.
Well, I'm glad you were able to figure that out, because that is difficult. And it is shocking at first too, when you're like, whoa, wait a second. It becomes a different story. And you're right. It does become a different energy in that sense. And speaking,
I couldn't even open the email.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's the energy, right? Like that's what is happening here. I should be like a kid at Christmas. Like we're one step closer, and then, here's the polished up version of my work. And it was just like, oh, I can't do that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was very confusing.
I feel like hybrid or self will be better for you. Honestly, though, I still feel your story could be under a big house, because I feel like, and I haven't even read it. I just intuitively am picking up that this is going to be a cool and very interesting story that I'd want to read. And I'll explain the hybrid.
Okay.
Hybrid is the best of both worlds in a way. And it has its downs too, which I'll explain and get to. A hybrid, now, if you Google hybrid, this is where it can get to be a lot. I've heard horror stories. If you're sitting here and you're going to find a random hybrid like house on Google.
Okay.
Because the hybrids that I'm going to speak of are hybrids that are actually under a major publishing house. So I work a lot with Simon & Schuster. I like them a lot. They've got umbrellas that are under them. And they have a couple of their umbrellas, because there's different publishing houses, but a couple of them are considered hybrid. And what that means is you are published under their umbrella name, which there's different names, but it'll say distributed by Simon & Schuster on the book. Okay. You've got the guidance from them. You've got an editor on hand from them. Again, you have final say, though, with the hybrid. The hybrid is like, they're going to guide you and they're going to suggest edits, or, hey, these are some other title names that we've offered, and you could say, nope, it's this one. Or you could say, oh, okay, let's talk about it. You work together as a team, but you, again, are that leader of that team. You have the final say. Same thing with like book covers. They're going to ask you, do you have an idea of what you want already? And you can say yes, or you can say no. They've got their own team of illustrators that can help guide you, or they could say, here's a place that, maybe go speak to these ones, or here's some ideas, or you can kind of collaborate together, or do whatever it may be, you could do your own. It's a complete like hybrid of the best of the both worlds. You do not get paid up front, though. So that's one of the downfalls. You're not getting a book deal right away. However, because they're helping you almost launch your book in a way. So like, let's say the book sells a lot, and it is. So in a way, it's like, they're going to get you in all the bookstores. They're going to get you, you're going to be found online everywhere, just like a regular book would be. You can even negotiate, foreign sales. So if you're like, oh, I'd love to go over into another country or whatnot, they're going to help you with all of that. You usually would get an audiobook deal eventually as well, which is super fun because it's a normal publishing route, which is great because you audio. I mean, people like me, I love physical books, but I like the audio because I'm a mom, so I can listen to it in the car or whatnot. So
And
those are
that's
always
actually on my list. There's a studio, there's a recording studio here near where I live. And because I wanted it to be in the frequency of my voice.
and they will usually let you with the hybrid. I will say
Mhm.
that. Tell them that when when I'm already saying you're going to go do that, have the meeting. But when you take a meeting with them, tell them that I would love to have an audiobook. I want to read it in my voice. You have a good voice.
Mhm.
I haven't heard you read, but I'm assuming that you're very well spoken and that you would be good at it. So, and the fact that they work with, and I have many coaches and that are spiritual, like get downloads. I work with them a lot, and that's who I have them work with. They're used to it. So it's not,
Well, and the funny part is my son is a book narrator.
oh,
Yeah, well, he has been.
okay,
And
cool.
yeah, so it's kind of like, oh, isn't that interesting? So I went through that process with him when he was, was going through the auditions and got picked and was recording it. And there is something about frequency.
Yeah.
And I meet people all the time, and there was one gentleman in particular, and we were having a conversation, and he kept quoting everybody, kept quoting people and pulling books up and showing me them on the camera. And it didn't sit well with me. And I said, in my model of the world needs your unique voice, your frequency, that you synthesize all of that and you put it out in your point of view.
Mm-hmm.
And that there's room for everything. Everything is needed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I want to take that clip of what you just said and put it out there because that was a beautiful how you just worded that. Yes, indeed. There is room for everyone and everything. Everybody has a story to tell in some way, and everybody has an audience. I feel when people say competition, like okay, that's right.
That's so
there's right. It's like an old paradigm. Like
it is. Yeah, I don't exist there.
Yeah, I don't either.
And if I just look back at my path and where I am because of other people. And the power of it, and whether you ever hear about it or not. I have people all the time. It's like, because of you I did this, because of you I did that. And that's what the world needs.
Yes.
And the structure, so the traditional publishing structure is very daunting. Like it's meant to shut you down.
It can be.
Yeah. If you're not really determined and motivated and convinced that your voice needs to get out there, and enough to push through all that, then chances are you're not going to.
Yeah, it does. This is why I love doing what I do, because I love to help people, give them different avenues that they can look into, because not everybody knows of the hybrid world. And I feel that I want to help those that have an amazing story, because so many people have amazing stories, but they just don't know where to start. And I will say this. There are a few houses like Hay House or some other names that are.
It's Balboa, right? That's their self-publishing.
Balboa that's another publishing house. What is Hay House's?
It's Balboa.
Is it?
One of them is Balboa, yeah. Because I've done some writers' workshops with Reed Tracy and the other gal that he works with. Which
Balboa, I think, has both, but
Balboa Press.
Okay. Because Hay House, they have their own version.
They have their own, but they're under Balboa as well.
Right. So yeah, because okay. So and I'm not too familiar with that one, just to be. I'm not sure. I've worked with Hay House. I work with someone who was with Hay House that they approached him. And so I will say, if you're out there and you're speaking, if you're going to Conscious Life Expos and you're doing some of those and getting yourself out there, that they could approach you, and then your deal could be, because they know, hey, I not that you're completely going to have final say, but they do give more freedom because they want to
Well,
get
that's
what
the
you're
magic and the
working out.
uniqueness is in the vibration, the frequency, right? Like it's, you know, we don't want to be homogenous. And yeah, oh my gosh, you've got my creative juices flowing now.
Yay!
The first book that I wrote, it's called Who's Holding the Microphone? And I had a lot of pushback. I had pushback on the title, I had pushback on this, I had pushback on that. And it's like, from where I was coming from, I'm telling a story and I'm communicating something. If you don't, I shouldn't say this. So follow my lead. There's a reason I named it this. There's a reason I've done this. Follow my process and walk down the path I'm taking you on. Rather than, oh, it doesn't make sense. I don't see how it's relevant. It's like, well, then you didn't really read the book. It's really relevant. It's the key. It's the analogy. It's the life analogy is the name of the book.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that, yeah, it's such an interesting process. So whoever's thinking of writing a book, it is an, you know, it is a self-evolution. You learn so much about yourself and your coping strategies. Like me, you eat a lot of pizza. Stress to cook, stress to eat well. Not stress, but you know what I mean?
Yes.
So,
yes.
and
you flows, and you're like me. It's cacao or turmeric teas, and I go through the cacaos, and I'm like, how many cacaos? And I'm not hungry because it just fills me up. And I'm like, wait a second, I'm getting a little loopy here. How long have I been writing? Oh wow, 4 hours, and I forgot to eat today. That's probably why. You know?
Yeah. And then you're just like, no, I want all these thoughts, and you know, I got to get all these thoughts down. And I'm a huge journaler, so much of the book was going. I had my son ship me the journals from Canada.
Oh, good for you.
From the time frame that I was looking for. And you know, there's a coffee shop here in town, and I was walking by I met some people who were walking by, and I was like, that's a really great coffee shop, and I wrote a lot of my book there. So that's the, you know, that's kind of the association. And but in it I shared as much as I felt comfortable at the time.
Okay.
And knowing that there is a lot that I wasn't ready to tell the world about, and I use that as justification, or no, what I told myself was that the world wasn't ready to hear it. But that's just a justification for I wasn't ready to stand out there farther. Yes. But yeah, I think I've taken those steps, and I don't think it would surprise anybody. It really opens you up. Like when you've written it and then you start to talk about it, you get a lot more comfortable. A lot more comfortable. So it's funny because my brain is going to, okay, well, maybe it's time for the juicy version instead of the other one.
Yes, I think it's time, because you're helping so many people out. You will be helping so many people out there that are going to read your story, that are going through similar things that they feel shut down with. And your juicy story is going to help them, like you sharing those intimate moments and that vulnerability, as you were speaking about, that's going to help so many other people more truly, more deeply than a more, I don't want to say surface, because it's not surface, but
well, the other book would be a completely different thing.
Okay.
It's kind of, and that's where I was going with it. Because again, I get downloads, I get information on a certain soul group. And I have since 2018. And I collect, I research, I have all of this information. And there's no information out there. The information out there is all regurgitated from one common source many years ago. It's not new, and to me, it's nowhere near the information that I've been given. So that's what I thought this one was going to be.
Okay.
But now you've got me thinking.
I like when that happens.
Yeah. And a lot of it speaks to possibility, like what I know is possible because I myself have experienced it. really flies in the face of even people in the self-development and spiritual realm. Like what I've done, what's happened to me, is well beyond anything in that realm. So it speaks to possibility. Like I know what's possible. Yeah.
And you'd be helping others out there reading it know what's possible for them in that way.
Yeah. Or what's possible and hope.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm in a meditation community, and I posted, I did a walking meditation journey. So a daily walking meditation, and I started as a 30-day challenge. It's all, and I got sick in the beginning of it, and I was diagnosed with Crohn's.
Oh boy, I know that journey.
And I had been at a meditation retreat and had a healing for gluten sensitivity, and was eating gluten right away. So the evolution, that day I was eating gluten and it was fine. And so the evolution was that healed the gluten sensitivity. What was underlying it was the Crohn's. And I was in so much pain, and the only time I felt good was when I was doing my walking meditation. That would take all the pain away. So I kept going, and got the Crohn's diagnosis, healed that in 5 days, kept going. COVID hit, and I ended up going for over 724 days, 3 countries, changed my whole life.
Wow.
And I posted about that in my meditation community. And for me, it was always, this is big. This is way bigger than me. This isn't about me. This is just me doing something. And there's posts that I've done, and it's like, this frequency just needs to be out there. That's it. Doesn't matter who, past, present, future, whoever ends up reading it, for some reason it needs to be out there. And then I do it, and I just move on. So.
That's beautiful. And thank you for sharing that, because I know so many people that are, whether it's Crohn's or whether it's something else that they're going through, and to know that we can shift that, we can change that, and and a lot of it's, whether it's mindset and where our blocks are, but we're here to heal. Like we can heal ourselves. You can, it's like Louise Hay, you can heal your life.
Yes. And that's the first step but if you're walking with complications, it goes well beyond that. And there's many reasons the body doesn't heal, or it ping pongs, it bounces, it heals for a little bit, then there's kickback and they get worse. And that's the realm I work in, is understanding that. I had one woman come to me, she found me here in Playa, and through the universe, and she was in multiple organ failure, and her blood pressure was so high that they didn't know how she hadn't had a stroke. And 14 embodied souls, and we did the work, and within a couple months she was back working out with her personal trainer, perfectly healthy, perfectly normal, living a beautiful life.
Wow.
So that energetic block, sometimes you can't get it yourself. Right? I mean, I work with my teacher whenever it's like I don't want to fight with this. Someone else can see my blind spots.
Yeah.
And then you're getting into family, generational, and ancestral contracts that you cannot clear yourself.
Yes.
Right. So that's the realm. And then the body just responds. I'll send you a link to the book, because
please,
my before and after, like who I was before, the pictures, it's not the same person. You just know it's not the same person.
Amazing.
That was one of the things with my walking meditation, was I took before and after pictures every day.
Good for you. Wow. That's amazing. I definitely want to see that.
Yeah, that was so yeah, oh my gosh, you've so got my creative juices flowing. This is such an appropriate time, because kind of at the end of the week, I'm going to be setting my priorities for the next.
Okay.
I do it in like 5-week, 12-week, and then beyond. It's like, okay, I've got all these things I'm thinking of doing, and then I use a process of self-muscle testing.
Yep.
To have my body give me the priorities. So that's probably going to happen on Friday when I get a little bit more room in my day.
Beautiful. Oh, I love it. I love that. Well, I'm
Yeah.
glad I could be of help in some way. I don't
Thank you.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like, yeah, I'm glad that you are leaning more towards that. And then too, if you need any help with guidance as far as, contacts or whatnot, reach out to me after. I'll
Yeah,
talk to you after as well.
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. It's, it is an evolution because this would have scared the pants off me before, right? I would have had to been like, no, just do it. Just do it. And I think that the first book, that's why I went the route that I did, was because it was doable for
Yeah.
me. And it was manageable. It stretched me. I mean, I did get shut down at least once, maybe more, but this conversation that we're having now was inconceivable back in November of 2022, so 11 months ago.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
It's, you know what? I feel your strength and I can feel your energy, and you should be on the stages out there talking about it. And honestly, like I've heard of, like I mentioned before, I've heard of walk-in stories. I've never met anyone personally. I'm intrigued by it. I have so many questions, in that realm as well. So I feel like it's needed. It's so needed. And it is
Everybody's story is for a purpose.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
And we get shut down, we get shamed, we have so much, we're interfered with, we're dealing with external energies that are telling us nobody wants to hear what you have to say, and sapping our energetic free will so that we don't actually take the steps forward.
Mm-hmm. And you know what else is beautiful? I've gotten a ton of submissions for this, and I went through and energetically picked certain people.
Oh, did you? That's what I do. That's what I do.
Yes. So, and it's just, I find it to be aligned because, you could have come on and I could have been someone who knew, was those rigid book person, and like, I always find it fascinating. And I thank the universe always for bringing like-minded people, it's like, I think it's our soul group in a sense, just in. And so I'm not surprised.
It's interesting because I've had people sign me up as a guest and then the host no-showed. And I'm just like, okay, it wasn't aligned. It just wasn't meant to happen. It would have been crunchy and not good, or not the best use of our time, or so just let it go.
Right.
I use this for dating. Like, oh. And I get so many, oh no, it's not.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It's like, oh, hello.
I haven't met too many hellos recently, so
they aren't that many, but they're worth sorting through the rest for.
Nice.
Yeah. You just let the rest go, and then it's like, hello.
I love it. You're right. You can use that in almost any aspect, I guess, in a way, whether it's dating or whether it's like,
it's what's aligned with you, right? It's what's appealing to you.
Yes.
And it was like you picking guests, right? It's like, oh, hello.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like,
this speaks to me. I'm not sure what this is going to be about, but yes. See, I know.
There's a reason. And I live completely by guidance and intuition.
Yeah.
100%. And I never know what it's about. But it's like, well, it's going to be an adventure.
It usually is. And you know what? And we get guided. I will say it's an adventure and it's a blessing and it's a pleasure most of the time. Like, oh, that's why. Okay. That makes sense.
Then it's this reward.
Yeah.
There was, I'll just tell you a quick story. There was one day I was walking home from a friend's and I was walking down the main street. I live in Playa del Carmen, and I was walking down the main.
I knew when you said Playa, I was like, she means Playa del Carmen because I know Tulum really well.
No, I live in Playa. So I was walking down Quinta, which is the main road, and there's a little natural food store, like Bio Natural, that kept popping into my head. And the only thing I would get there is like this organic nut butter to put in my protein smoothies. And I was like, I don't need it. Like, I'm not running out, but here supplies never guaranteed. So it was really insistent. It's like, gotta go. So I'm walking back and I'm like, I'm just going to go in. And so I did walk in. They've got a shelf full of it. And I was like, okay, well, I don't know why I'm here, but turn around, walk out. There's a little restaurant in the front. And in the time, so maybe 20 seconds that I walked into the store, saw that the shelf was full and walked back out, a tourist had collapsed. Ooh. And fallen off of her chair into the bushes.
Wow.
And I walked by, waitress is with her, and I just kept walking by, and then I get this stop. I'm like, oh, I'm here for that? Okay. Mm-hmm. So I go back. She doesn't speak Spanish. The waitress doesn't speak English. She's a British tourist. Get her up, sitting down. It's like, what's going on? And that's why and it was in that moment, that second, that all happened. And that's why I needed to be there. Got her. She was dehydrated, no electrolytes, hadn't eaten. They put the food down in front of her, and her body's like, that's not happening. Mm-hmm. And so that's, like when you live that way, it's okay. Well, it's showing up, so I got to go.
Yep. I'm the same way. And there's so many stories like that. So
then you meet all these amazing people, because you're meeting who you're being guided to meet.
Yes. You never know.
Yeah.
It's so interesting. There's a friend of mine that became a friend. Years back, I was on a TV show. It was in Australia. And I was choking on a tortilla chip in a restaurant. It had turned sideways. And I'm at the table, and I'm like, nobody, they were like, oh, are you okay? And I'm like, and like, nobody. So I went into the bathroom, and this guy was sitting at a nearby table. He saw it, because I just couldn't communicate. And I was trying to like slam, and nobody was doing anything. So I ran into the bathroom, because there was a shelf there, and I was trying to like throw myself into the shelf. He ran into the bathroom and saved me. And we're friends to this day. And he's very connected in the entertainment world as well. And it was random. It was totally random.
It was meant to happen.
It was meant to happen. Yep.
Yeah. And I find that, the knee-jerk reaction for many people in that regard is to look at it as a romantic connection.
Yeah.
And then you kind of like go there, and then it's like, yeah, that's not what this is about.
No.
So now I never assume. Even when I meet guys to date, I never assume it's for that.
Yep.
Yeah. They're probably interfered with walk-in. It's like, let's get you cleaned up before I can date you. Right? You interface with their interference. They interface with yours.
Truth.
And so too much fun.
I know. I feel like I could talk to you forever. It was really amazing meeting you, by the way.
Yeah, you totally got my juices going in terms of, there's no coincidence that in a couple of days that and I was supposed to do this process about 2 weeks ago, but then there was other stuff that came up, and I'm like, no, I got to let all that stuff settle down and sort itself out. Mm-hmm. And then it'll be appropriate to do it. So I have no doubt that this is one of those. So yeah, I'll totally keep you posted, because maybe it is time for the juicy version.
I think it is.
Maybe I'm ready, because that's really all it's about.
It is. It's about you being ready. It really is. It really is. And you could always write the juicy version. And if you feel I'm not sure, just write it for you. See what comes out. It doesn't mean you have to publish it. Just have it in your mind. I don't have to publish this. I'm just writing this for me. And then after you write it.
Oh, that actually feels really good. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I love to have projects. I'm always writing. And if I'm not writing, if that creative juice isn't flowing, then I feel not fulfilled.
I think write it for you. Have it in your mind. I'm writing this for me. Get as juicy and as deep as you want. And then you get to choose when you go back to look at it, if you want to stay that juicy or if you want to tone it back. But get it all out first and see what that feels like. See what comes out.
Well, and it's interesting because I go through the process of like mapping out what I want. And then like when it came down to my final, the manuscript, like the final one before I submitted it for formatting, like I muscle test on every page.
Mhm.
Like, is there anything, is this page complete? Yes, no, yes, okay. This one, no. Okay, what paragraph? Is it this paragraph? And it really going right down to the page, to the sentence. And is there something missing? Is there something that needs to be revised? Is there something that needed to be added or taken away? And then doing the revisions that way.
I love that. However, you're muscle testing for where your mind is at that point. So, or what the vision is at that point. So if you know now, just to put this in there, if you know now, you know what, I'm just going to get as juicy as I can. I'm going to write this for me.
No, that's at the final edit.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. No, this, because you got to do the data dump.
Got it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I do, is I just write everything down, and there's some stuff and you're just like, oh, I don't know if I could say that. And I write it, and it's like, I don't have to do anything with it. I can walk away.
Right.
But it's the final edit.
Got it.
That I, should I be adding stuff here, taking stuff away? And then when I get an all clear, then the file can go for formatting.
I love that. I love that. It's beautiful.
I think I'm going to be busy.
I think you're going to be really busy. I do. I really do. I feel like there's going to be a lot of books, and I do see you speaking big time out there. I do feel like you should get involved with the Conscious Life Expo for sure. And I would go in and I will say this, things book up quickly, so
I have no idea what the Conscious Life Expo is.
It's in LA. It's in, I want to say February or March each year. This year I would just go and show up to just walk around because it's too late to submit. But I do see you submitting and having your own thing on a stage. It's big. It is.
That's what my friends and clients tell me. And they're like, well, you've changed my life.
It's time.
Yeah, it is time. And it needed for me to get here.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
and if you want to talk later, we can always talk after.
We totally will.
I'm a book coach, but I also am a publicist. And so one of my things I do is help people get out there, look at your platform, and really get your platform. My biggest thing is like, I want you to have the converts. So what that means is your platform, like making sure your website and everything is completely dialed in before we go and launch. That way, when we launch and get you out there on that big level, that you're having the conversions come back as clients or as book sales or whatever it may be. Speaking, you're getting the paid engagements, whatever it is. The website and your platform, because your platform consists of not just your website, it's your messaging, it's your branding. Is everything consistent? What about your social platforms? What does that look like? Do you have a presence? If you don't, where can we make a presence? All of that. So it's so perfect and aligned that when we get you out there in media are going to say yes instantly. And again, it's also like, I think big, it's unstoppable. They're going to say yes. We're in that level of everyone's a yes. If you want to go to a big publisher, it's a yes. Well, it's just yeses all around. I want that to happen versus, there are so many publicists I'd say out there that just take money. Sorry, I'm gonna be real. But there are great ones, but there are also many that just take money, and because they don't know the marketing side. They don't know why things aren't working and why you're not getting those bigger hits, those bigger goals. And most of it's the platform. It's simple, yet it's not simple, and again, email lists. What does that look like? Are you warming up your list? There's all these things and questions that I have, but that we go into to make sure you're set up and perfect for when we get to PR. They're all yeses, and you're just flowing and getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And your message is getting out there to more people, because the end result is getting your message out there to more people, to the world, so that they can then be healed and they can learn from you. It's really what it's about.
And I've been developing my courses as well. Like I teach dowsing.
Oh,
yeah. So starting to connect. Intuition, starting to receive guidance. That was the first way that I started to get guidance, was dowsing. My one-to-one client work, my coaching work through integration, my community. And I'm going to that's one of the things is I got to figure out the timing for, is I have a new course coming out. Okay. And that's the self-muscle testing. That's the developing the intuition, the talking to body, all that stuff. Because I ask my body everything, supplements, everything. My body decides, yep, I want to eat this. I don't want to eat that. I don't know. My body knows what it wants.
It's so true. It's so true. And I love muscle testing. I've worked with a lot of holistic people in the past. That's what they do. They muscle test for me. we do this.
You got to be clear. especially if you're an interfered with walk, and you got to be clear because you don't know what's answering the question. Right.
Ooh,
So
yeah.
it's not, I don't recommend, like, I don't wholesale recommend it until you've done some work.
Mhm.
And there's that intuition. It's like, okay, what's my heavy light saying and what's my body saying?
Yeah.
And if they're in agreement, then yeah. So there's a lot of nuances, and
I think that's wonderful what you're teaching and what you're doing. It really is. And it needs to be out there.
all right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll have a conversation after I go through my process at the end of the week.
Yes.
And figure out what my priorities are, because
absolutely.
I feel like I've just like, the analogy I get is like a snake that's eaten something really big and it's just kind of passing.
Yeah.
Where I'm at. It's like, okay, it's in the final tail end of passing, so I'm ready for something new.
I love that you use the snake analogy because I actually have a snake.
Oh, okay.
So there's your intuition. Yeah.
Person, but the snake image just popped into my head.
She's in the other room. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. That snakes have shown up twice today then.
Oh, interesting.
Interesting.
Very interesting. Yeah.
So, well, thank you so much. You've definitely chatting with you has definitely gotten the juices flowing, and what's possible now, because what's in your mind is what you thought was possible, but now it's consciously saying, well, what's possible now?
Exactly.
I've just gone through all this stuff. The last 5 months has been wild. And what's possible now?
Yes. Yes. It's a great question to ask.
Yeah.
It really is. And to check in with every so often. Yep.
Yeah. How big, how much, how big, how awesome.
Yes.
So thank you for that, because that always feels really good when you can feel it all flowing. And as I said, the timing is not a coincidence.
It's not. It was such a pleasure to meet you. Thank you for
such a pleasure to meet you. And you and I are definitely going to stay in touch.
I love it. Yay. Thank you. Have a beautiful rest of your day today too.
You too.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.